Kosovans will get independence, so the West says, but Russia and Serbia stand defiant. Can both sides reach common ground, or could there be fresh conflict in the province? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Imran Gabda. Recognition within months as an independent state. That's what the president of Kosovo claims the West has promised. Serbia, on the other hand, threatens to retaliate against anyone who supports the province in its bid to break away. So can the impasse be resolved, or is the prospect of fresh war in the Balkans on the horizon? UN-led plans to give Kosovo supervised independence have been set aside after Russia, a staunch supporter of Serbia, blocked the resolution. The matter has now been placed in the hands of the so-called contact group made up of the US, Russia, Britain, Italy, France and Germany. Unlike the UN Security Council, no one country has a veto. Serbia, which sees Kosovo as part of its heartland, says the West has no right to help the province split from a sovereign nation. The West argues that Kosovo, where 9/10 of the people are ethnic Albanian, is a unique case because of the genocide it suffered under Serb rule during the conflict of the 1990s. The province had been run by the UN for the past 8 years. The strife dates back somewhat further, though. After the breakup of Yugoslavia in the early 90s, ethnic conflicts and civil wars spread throughout the country, including Kosovo. Albanian Kosovans sought independence from the Serbs, but the Serbian government, led by Slobodan Milosevic, resisted, and the conflict turned into violence. A ceasefire took effect in 1998, but less than a year later it was broken and NATO forces began bombing the territory. After the war, Kosovo came under UN control. And while the majority of Kosovans, Albanians and non-Serbs want independence, the small groups of Serbs in Kosovo want the area to remain part of Serbia. Russia has, as we said earlier, repeatedly threatened to veto any move to grant independence to Kosovo. In recent times, the issue has been a sticking point in Russia's relations with the West. Russia says Western countries are ignoring its key concern. That is, granting independence to Kosovo will encourage other breakaway states across the former USSR, where separatist sentiments are strong. It also fears the move could inflame ultranationalists who want to see Russian minorities across the former Soviet Union brought back under Moscow's sway. They are also concerned independence for Kosovo could lead to fresh conflict within the Balkans. Well, joining us in our discussion today are our guests in Washington, Nicholas Vostev, editor of The National Interest and senior fellow of strategic studies at the Nixon Center. In Moscow, Dmitry Suslov, Deputy Director of Research at the Council for Foreign and Defense Policy, and in Belgrade, Vladimir Radomirovic, Deputy Editor of Foreign Affairs at the Serbian daily Politika. Mr. Radomirovic, if I could start off with you first, sir. Why does Serbia have such a problem with Kosovo trying to get independence?
Well, this has several issues related to it. I mean, Serbia regards Kosovo, rightly so, as the birthplace of its nation back 1,000 years ago. And above that, there are still Serbs living in Kosovo, about more than 100,000 Serbs there. And any sort of independence would threaten those Serbs living there, because they would feel that they've been oppressed by Albanians, and they would want to leave Kosovo, and this could further inflame the situation in Serbia itself, because the ultranationalists could claim, and not only ultranationalists could claim, that the West has supported Albanians in depriving Serbia and Serbs of its most holy land.
Mr. Suslov in Moscow, what's in it for Russia to support Serbia so vehemently?
Well, Russia's support for Serbia and Russia's special relations with Serbia are one of the most important factors in Russia's position, but there are also at least two other. One of them is Russia does not believe in state-building process now being prosperous in Kosovo. Russia is afraid of another failed state on the map of Europe. And what Russia sees now is that the state-building process supervised by the UN and controlled by NATO is clearly failing. Also, still there is a link between Kosovo case and the so-called unrecognized republics in post-USSR. And Russia, Russia has also, as the United States has promised too much to Kosovo, Russia has also said quite a lot to those republics and in relation to those republics. So if Kosovo becomes independent, Russia will have to also grant independence to those republics, and it is not in Russia's interest.
It's not in Russia's interest. Let me get to Mr. Vostev's opinion on this. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Nicholas Vostev, will this open up a Pandora's box in the region, as some have said? Will there be some sort of domino effect of small provinces breaking away, wanting independence in the former USSR?
Well, I think that there is an issue of a precedent that has to be addressed. That when you're saying that an autonomous region can break away and become a fully independent state because if there was oppression or persecution from the dominant nation, that this sets the criteria for independence, it does become difficult to look at Kosovo as such a unique case that no other region, not only within the former USSR, we can point to different provinces in Indonesia. There's the Western Sahara case, which the UN is considering at the same time. There is a precedent that I think other regions will try to claim. What has happened, though, is that the United States in particular, but also I think the European Union, has made it absolutely clear that they don't plan to allow a Kosovo precedent to be applied in any other region of the world. This does not mean, however, that other regions won't try to claim a Kosovo precedent, and it's telling that just this week, as this discussion has been heating up here in Washington, already Nagorno-Karabakh and Abkhazia have said if Kosovo becomes independent by the end of the year, they plan to apply for recognition on the same criteria. Won't get them much leeway here in Washington, but at the same time it will complicate efforts, I think, to resolve these other frozen conflicts in other parts of the world.
Mr. Suslov, trying to look at the sort of core of the problem, the UN Charter states both the right of self-determination of peoples and territorial integrity of states. Are those two principles profoundly contradicting themselves when it comes to this particular issue?
Yes, of course they are contradictory, but I think we should also move beyond clear, precise UN Charter while analyzing Kosovo case and look at the issue of governance. What we in Russia are really afraid of, as I've said, is emergence of another failed state on the European map with dangerous consequences for the whole Balkan region. But answering your question, yes, of course, the UN Charter was a compromise document, and there are contradictory principles in that, and it is the political decision whether to implement one of them or another. Also, let me point to one important issue which Nicholas said. He said Europe and the United States will not allow this or that. This is the kind of approach that also Mr. Bush said, that we have made decision on Kosovo and we will move either with you or without you. This is the approach that Russia cannot accept and will not accept any further. Let us please decide together, and we shall not agree to decisions taken unilaterally. We are asked whether to agree with the decision already taken or disagree with that and then go to hell. I think that story has already gone. It will not gonna to continue in the years to come, and we shall not support that kind of approach.
Vladimir Radomirovic in Belgrade was not former Finnish President Martti Ahtisaari and UN Special Envoy. Wasn't his plan quite balanced in the sense that it said, let's give independence to Kosovo in increments, in stages, slowly? Wasn't that balanced?
It's independence. Whether you call it supervised independence or something else, it's independence. So this is unacceptable to Serbia. And if I just might add that, in my opinion, and when I speak to people who know international law recognizes the right of self-determination only for complete nations, not just parts of a nation. So self-determination would, in Serbia's case, apply to the whole nation of Serbia, not just Albanians in Kosovo. So the right of self-determination does not apply to Albanians in Kosovo.
But Mr. Radomirovic, the bulk of the population in Kosovo are Kosovo Albanians, and they want independence. How do you deal with that?
That's right, and And also the majority of people in the Basque country want independence too. That doesn't give them the right to be independent. And this is exactly why Spain and Cyprus, for example, Cyprus has the problem of Northern Cyprus, are afraid that any sort of unilateral declaration of independence by Kosovo would create a precedent that would be difficult to deal with regarding what they have in their own countries.
And do you feel that Serbians are caught between not wanting independence for Kosovo, but also not wanting to be isolated from the West?
Exactly. Serbia wants to continue its road to the membership of the EU and more cooperation with the West. But it also wants good relationships with Russia and China and other countries that are playing a huge role in this region. And no, I don't think that Serbia will be isolated in any way because majority of Serbs want for the country to join the EU. And just last night, the Serbian parliament adopted another resolution on the issue of Kosovo, and it said that it would resort to some sort of measures to those countries that would accept any sort of unilateral declaration of independence by Kosovo. But from what we hear from government officials, this would not include breaking off all diplomatic ties with those countries.
Mr. Vozdev, do you feel that if Kosovo is given independence very quickly, it could leave it quite vulnerable?
Well, this is a problem that has not, I think, been honestly faced here in Washington. I have to say that there is an attitude here that sees independence as a solution. There is a view here of give independence and the U.S. can disengage from the region. And this is problematic because no matter what final status Kosovo ends up with, it's going to take years to reconstruct institutions, to rebuild regional ties. The European Union is in no shape, as we've seen with its recent expansion, to just simply absorb millions of new Europeans into EU institutions. And unfortunately, I also have to say one of the things driving it here in Washington, why we've seen this timeline adopted, is this is becoming now an issue for U.S. elections. If you read the op-ed piece by John Podesta, who was President Clinton's chief of staff several days ago in the Washington Post, it's very clear that Democrats want to use Kosovo as an issue to contrast with President Bush's supposed failures in Iraq, and at the same time Republicans want to claim Kosovo as a successful legacy of the Bush administration. So one of the things that's now becoming part of this process is not simply what's happening in Kosovo, what's happening with Serbs and Albanians, but also that the American electoral calendar is beginning to intrude, and both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, are anxious to have something that they can show as a success as they go into the 2008 campaign.
All right, gentlemen, stick around. Time for a short break. When we come back, we talk about possible solutions, if any, to the ongoing dispute over Kosovo. Stay with us.